Tuviste un corazón que está hecho pedazos.
Si vas conmigo nada me faltará, pues bajo tus alas siempre a mí me guardarás. Quiero que seas mi GPS cuando no me pueda hallar, y que con tus preciosas cuerdas me vuelvas a atrapar. No se puede caminar sin la dirección de tu voz, ni siquiera un paso ni dos, y no lo puedo negar, pero yo estoy claro que yo seguiré tu corazón.
Hay amores que te dejan bendecido el cora, amores como el tuyo el alma me decoran, que estás puesto pa' mí las 24 horas, por eso es que tú nunca te demoras, no, no. Me dijo te amo, tú eres mi hijo, yo nunca te dejo, toma mi mano, vente conmigo que el camino es lejos, amores como el tuyo no hay.
Porque si vas conmigo nada me faltará, pues bajo tus alas siempre a mí me guardarás. Quiero que seas mi GPS cuando no me pueda hallar, y que con tus preciosas cuerdas me vuelvas a atrapar una vez más.
Quiero que sea, Señor, nuestra dirección cuando estemos perdidos. Chao.
Por un espejo y no entiendo lo que hay en el reflejo, ni yo me reconozco los ojos. Solo sé que hoy soy otro y aprendí a perdonar lo peor en mí.
Atraviesa el tráfico de autos con el mejor playlist.
The drive home sounds better.
El camino suena mejor con la Celestial 106.5.
No le cambie, porque a continuación comenzará un programa que bendecirá tu vida. Aquí en la Celestial FM 106.5. El siguiente programa es clasificación A, apto para todo público. Contenido E, entretenimiento.
Toda palabra o punto doctrinal emitido en el siguiente programa es responsabilidad exclusiva del programador y no de esta radioestación.
Bienvenidos a Café con Hispanos, un programa que conecta nuestra fe, nuestros valores como familia, nuestros negocios y proyectos de ley que afectan a nuestra comunidad hispana aquí en Carolina del Norte. Entrevistamos al gobierno y a líderes de nuestra comunidad para dialogar sobre el trabajo que realizan en beneficio nuestro, actualidad y un sabor a dulce hogar. Somos la voz de nuestra gente hispana. Le damos la bienvenida al pastor Gilbert Pagan. Café con Hispanos comienza.
Hispanos del Sur, la voz de los hispanos en Carolina del Norte, quiere asegurarle que esté al tanto de los programas que le beneficiarán a usted y a su familia. Servimos a familias y a empresas en 4 áreas. 1. Creación, financiamiento y crecimiento de pequeñas empresas. 2. Becas para enviar a sus hijos a escuelas privadas y religiosas. 3. Programas de salud y bienestar para mejorar su salud y obtener seguro médico. 4. Educación cívica, políticas públicas y cómo las leyes y regulaciones afectan su vida diaria. Nos aseguramos de que nuestras voces se escuchen en todos los niveles de gobierno. ¿Necesita hablar con nosotros o colaborar con nosotros? Contáctenos al 919-931-4597 o por correo electrónico connect@hispanosdelsur.com o envíe un mensaje en redes sociales. Hispanos del Sur, la voz de la comunidad hispana.
Cuando el mundo te inunda de fatalidad y te agobia la vida con su mucho afán y se llena tu alma de preocupación y se seca la fuente de tu corazón. Cuando quieres huir porque no puedes más, porque solo te sientes entre los demás y no hay más en tus ojos brillo y emoción y se cierra tu boca porque no hay canción. Puedes sentarte a sus pies.
Buenas tardes, bella audiencia. Bienvenido otra vez a un segmento de Café con Hispanos. Aquí en Carolina del Norte, estamos aquí en Raleigh, en la cabina, como siempre los jueves de 4 a 5 de la tarde. Vamos a hacer este programa en inglés sobre las primarias de Carolina del Norte. We're going to do this program in English today. We're going to be discussing North Carolina primaries 2026. The primary in North Carolina was March 3rd. That was this Tuesday. Today is March 5th. And we're going to share a little bit about some races and also some thoughts on what we've seen in North Carolina in particular. At the top of the ticket is the U.S. Senate race that we had a primary. And after the retirement announcement of Senator Thom Tillis in 2025, the state of North Carolina was anxious. Everyone wants to know who will be eventually fill this seat, given that the U.S. Senate has the control of the Republicans of the U.S. Senate is kind of tight, and there was a concern about who was going to win this seat. While many names, there were a lot of people that threw their names in the ring to run in the Republican and Democratic primary. The front runner and the preferred candidate for the Democratic Party was always former Governor Roy Cooper. There were a couple of others that were positioning themselves to run for U.S. Senate, but they dropped out and they all got behind Cooper. And then on the Republican side is former RNC Chairman Michael Whatley for the Republican Party. So on Tuesday night, March 3rd, the voters chose Michael Whatley to be the Republican nominee, and the voters chose Roy Cooper to be the Democratic nominee heading into November 2026 for the U.S. Senate seat that is being vacated by Thom Tillis, who's retiring. It is estimated that total spending for this race is estimated to be about $1 billion. That's with a B. And that is not that the candidates are going to spend all that money, but they're going to spend a lot of money themselves. But there's going to be special interest money coming into the state, PAC money coming into the state from other states to influence the Senate election in North Carolina, because the both parties want to try to control the Senate. The U.S. Senate is going to throw a lot of money at this race. So be ready for nonstop ads on TV, radio, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, up until the election in November of 2026. Michael Whatley, the Republican candidate who's now been chosen by the people to represent the party in this election, was the chair of the North Carolina Republican Party for 5 years, the local state party He was the chair for 5 years, and then was the chair of the Republican National Committee, that's in D.C., for about a year. After he left North Carolina, he went to D.C. and became the RNC chair for about a year. He had some other positions. I think he was vice chair and became chair, I believe, but he was there for about a year as the actual chair. And Michael Whatley helped with the Trump transition team in Trump's first term in 2016. So he has a long relationship with President Trump, and President Trump asked him to be the chair of the RNC in D.C., the Republican National Committee in D.C., so he took that position. So Whatley was also an oil lobbyist for about 17 years in various kind of positions, but he also worked 7 years in the private sector, and there was some overlap with the private sector and some of the lobbying kind of work. Because he was doing, he's working for himself and working in a firm and that kind of thing. But that's kind of his experience going into this election. Obviously, he knows the political landscape and of North Carolina and the like. So I'm going to show video one. Watch video one. Por favor, ponga video número uno. We're going to play video number one of his speech after he accepted the nomination.
None of this happens without you and Michael and George and Mary Kate. I know Michael and George are here tonight. Really, really glad to have them here. Mary Kate is up at school. She's got physical training tomorrow morning at 5:30, so we get her pass. And I also want to thank the grassroots conservatives, volunteers, and voters across this state who knocked doors, made calls, said prayers, and helped turn this campaign into a movement. And I want to thank President Donald J. Trump for his strong and unwavering support in this race. His leadership has changed our country, and I am proud to stand with him in the fight to secure our border, to strengthen our economy, and put America first. You know, I grew up in Blowing Rock. My mom was a librarian. My dad was an accountant. I went to school. I went to church. I played sports, and I worked. I was able to pay my own way through college, through graduate school, and law school. After school, I met Suzanne, and we started an amazing family and built an incredible career. In short, I have lived the American dream right here in North Carolina. And I announced my campaign for the United States Senate because North Carolina is home, and because I want every child to have the same opportunities that I've had, to grow up, to get an education, to create a career, get married, and raise a family in safety and security. Tonight is an important night. Republican voters from across the state are united because the stakes for North Carolina are too high to stay divided. And tonight, we begin the next chapter of this campaign together. Because this election is bigger than a primary. This election is a choice. A choice between leadership that stands with working families or a choice for career politicians who prioritize radical special interests from California and New York. A choice between safer communities or politicians who protect criminals and illegal aliens to appease radical left-wing groups. A choice between supporting the men and women in uniform who protect our interests and allies around the world, or politicians who vote to deny essential military funding, leaving America weak. A choice between a conservative champion for North Carolina, who will be an ally for President Trump in the Senate, or a champion for the failed policies of the left. You know, for 8 years, Roy Cooper had a choice: stand with law-abiding families or give in to the radical left. And for 8 years, Roy Cooper sided with the radical left. It was Roy Cooper who marched with Antifa and BLM while our cities were burning in 2020. It was Roy Cooper who signed an executive order forcing cashless bail and pretrial release into our criminal justice system, creating a revolving door that put violent criminals back on the streets again and again and again. And it was Roy Cooper who released more than 4,000 prisoners, including pedophiles, rapists, and murderers, back into our communities. Among those on Cooper's list were 51 inmates serving life sentences, and DeCarlos Brown Jr., who went on to murder Irina Zarotska right here in Charlotte. Law enforcement warned against it. Families worried about their safety. Roy Cooper did it anyway. Roy Cooper sided with criminals, and North Carolina communities have paid the price. I stand with North Carolina families, and I will always back the blue. North Carolina families know that a secure border means safer communities. Joe Biden opened our borders to the worst of the worst from around the world. More than 15 million illegal immigrants flooded into our country, bringing drugs, migrant crime, and sex trafficking on a scale never before seen in the history of our country. Illegal drugs and criminals don't stay at the southern border. They reach our towns and neighborhoods. And every state, including North Carolina, is now a border state. Roy Cooper vetoed efforts to ensure cooperation with immigration enforcement here at home, letting drugs and illegal immigrants flood into our communities. He tied the hands of our police. Thankfully, President Trump has secured our border. Not one illegal alien has been admitted into the United States in 9 straight months. And migrant crime and drug deaths are down across the country. Roy Cooper chose criminal illegal aliens over North Carolina communities. I will stand with President Trump to finish the job, secure the border permanently, and ensure that illegal aliens are swiftly deported. This election is also about our government and who it works for, working families or political insiders. Under Roy Cooper's leadership, health care costs rose to the highest in the nation, and families felt squeezed by higher prices and higher bills. Those policies didn't hurt career politicians. They hurt workers trying to raise their families and build a future. As a state legislator, Roy Cooper voted for tax hikes. As a governor, he vetoed tax cuts. He proudly declared that he would have voted against extending Trump's middle-class tax cuts and eliminating taxes on overtime, tips, and Social Security. Roy Cooper has never seen a dollar that he didn't want to tax and spend. I've never seen a tax I didn't want to cut. Roy Cooper will always support more regulation, more taxes, higher health care costs, and inflationary spending. I will fight for more jobs, bigger paychecks, and lower costs. And in the Senate, I will aggressively push for tax policies, regulatory policies, and trade policies which will strengthen our manufacturers, small businesses, and farmers. Tonight, North Carolina did not just choose a nominee. You chose a direction. A campaign built on safe communities, strong families, economic opportunity, and putting North Carolina first. I will work every day to earn the trust of every North Carolinian who wants safer streets, affordable living, and a stronger future. Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of a movement to restore common sense leadership, a movement to stand with working families instead of criminals, a movement to make North Carolina safer, stronger, and more affordable. Our state's best days are still ahead, and together, we're going to win in November. So thank you. God bless you, and God bless the great state of North Carolina.
Well, that was the nomination speech, acceptance speech for Michael Whatley that he did on Tuesday night, speaking to the people that supported him, also speaking to the population in North Carolina. And Whatley, at this point, is not well known, and that is good and bad. Okay, the good is that he can make his case to the people of North Carolina of why he should be our next senator. There's no political voting history or record for him to be attacked on because he has not held elected office. There's people who run for office, never held elected office, and they won and do a great job. So that's not an issue, but there's no history for him to be attacked on by holding elected office. He could set the agenda because he has not held any positions. So the bad is that he needs to build his name to the general electorate, other than the Republican Party people and the insiders who know who he is. So he has to build his name, and that's why I said earlier, you're going to see a lot of money coming into the state, obviously, to help both candidates win this seat, whereas a lot of money will also be spent on Whatley building his name and his brand in the state, because not many people know who he is other than out of Republican circles. But he has history on his side, Whatley, because the last Democrat senator in North Carolina was Kay Hagan in 2015. We've had all Republican senators since then. And Trump, who supports Whatley and gave him his endorsement for the primary, also won the state in Trump won the state in 2016, 2020, and 2024. He won the state. Voters voted for him, and he won the state. So, he's got that on his side, meaning Whatley, and that's an opportunity for him there because of the leaning of the state to elect historically a Republican to the Senate seat. So now we're going to watch video number two, and with Roy Cooper and his acceptance speech.
Just beginning. We have a long way to go until November. Hey, but if you want change in Washington, do you? Yeah! This campaign is for you. If you want to toss out the DC insiders, do you? Yeah! This campaign is for you. You know, if you just think things cost too much, do you? This campaign is for you. I've never been in a race that this crucial for the people of North Carolina and for our country. And I need all of you to get this job done. Let me tell you why I'm running. I'm running for the hard-working parent who's tired of seeing higher costs at the grocery store and scared that the family won't be able to make ends meet. I'm running for farmers like Jeanette and Joyce in Mount Olive, who are struggling to afford what they need to grow their crops, seeing equipment costs spike and watching their bottom line evaporate because of the tariffs. I'm running for Meredith in Winston-Salem and her daughter Vivian, who might lose her medical treatment because of right-wing attacks on health care. I'm running because I love North Carolina, and things just should not be this hard for the people who live here. It is time for a change. Now, you know, I didn't plan to go to Washington. All of my public service has been here in North Carolina because this is where I wanted to serve, right here at home. But these are not ordinary times. Everyday people are being left behind. And we see the chaos that's coming out of Washington only making it worse. The cost of groceries, child care, utilities, rent, health care, skyrocketing. Just overnight, we saw the price of gas spike. Yet another burden on working families. Meanwhile, the DC insiders are making sure that the wealthiest among us are getting further ahead, all at your expense, and it's not right. I knew that I needed to run for this Senate seat because Washington, D.C. is broken. And North Carolinians are struggling because of it. As I thought about running, on Sundays I would sit in church And I kept coming back to a passage in the book of Luke. To whom much is given, much is required. A lot has been given to me. A lot's been required.
Trump se dirige hacia un grupo de personas. Y el resumen de esa locución, Trump...
So we're back here, and that was Roy Cooper, former Governor Roy Cooper, and his acceptance speech for the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate. So you have to understand that Roy Cooper and some of the things that benefits he has is that he was former governor, and he was 8 years as a governor. He was Attorney General for 16 years. And he was in the North Carolina Senate for 10 years, and he was also a House member of North Carolina for 4 years. And he was in private practice, law practice, for 18 years, I guess, before he became a House member in North Carolina. There's pros and cons to him as well, as I shared with regarding Whatley. He has a record as governor that can be used, right, to determine how he would vote in the Senate. And some of them are good. Some of it's bad. He has a long history. He was a House member for 4 years. He was a Senate member for 10 years. He was a governor for 8 years, Attorney General for 16 years. So he has a lot of history that can be used, against him. And some of it's good and bad. The bad is what Whatley brought up in his acceptance speech, that he was marching with BLM protesters during the George Floyd riots. He was marching with the Antifa members. He was also the governor during COVID, where he advocated for closing churches and keeping them closed, while Planned Parenthood, ABC stores, Walmart, Target, they all stayed open. And we were one of the states that had a very long school closure for COVID, where other states were opening up their schools. We remained closed, and that affected kids' learning. And Whatley alluded to this as well, releasing criminals in mass under Roy Cooper as governor into the streets of North Carolina, some 4,000 with no cash bail, and then a small portion, I think it was 50 or so, he said, that were murderers, and then one of them killed Irina in Charlotte on the train, that case that brought national attention to North Carolina and the policies of the catch and release of criminals. So there's also issues with bad management of resources and rebuilding for families post Hurricane Florence. And that whole situation with the hurricane and the money and not getting to the people and being able to rebuild their houses. There are people that have not gotten money for their homes and the like. So these are all bad things. And he's never had a strong competitor run against him. And this will be really a hard race for him. Now, the good is that he has strong name recognition. So people know him. I mean, he was, because of all the years he's been in politics in North Carolina. And so that's good. He was also governor during major growth of our state. And, state jobs, economy, businesses coming to the state, coming here to build their companies because of our colleges and our environment and communities and things of that nature, and the people that the students that we're cranking out in our college system are good. And so he was governor during that time, and also he was governor when Medicaid expanded. So these are good things that that he can use, right? But he has a lot of history, and that history could be used in support of his candidacy, but also to attack his candidacy because he has a record. And rest assured, both parties will come at each other hard over the next, between now and Election Day, because their control of the Senate is at risk for the party in power, which is the Republican Party. They control the Senate at this point. So and they want to obviously keep that control to support Trump's agenda. So that is the good and bad of both candidates, and we just got through the primary. So the real work is going to happen right now until election day. Another election that was very interesting in North Carolina was the District 4 seat for Congress. The Democratic primary for North Carolina's 4th District in Congress was a rematch of 2022 between challenger Nida Alam, a Durham County Commissioner, and Congresswoman, the one who holds the seat now, Valerie Fouché. This race, the one in North Carolina, this race gained national attention from people like the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders. They supported Nida Alam, who in theory would have been a Muslim congresswoman if she would have won the primary, because in that district it's mostly Democrat. So if she won that primary, she more than likely would have won the seat. But again, Democratic voters elected Valerie Fouché, who is the incumbent, in a very narrow decision. I mean, it was a very tight race. And she got over just 49% of the vote, meaning Fouché. And it was a very close race for her, given that she was an incumbent. This is, very interesting. And this is not the first time that they have come against each other. She ran against her in 2022, meaning Elam, while she was in Durham. This was an interesting race because Fouché is a liberal Democrat, and Alam is a far left progressive candidate, more to the left than a typical left Democrat. And Alam was also part of the Democrat Socialists of America. And this race had almost $1 million thrown into it from various sources to try to make the outcome of the race lean toward the people who were putting the money in, and the ones who were supporting Fouché and the ones who were supporting Alam. And Alam received a lot of money from pro-Muslim PACs and influence groups, and a lot of them were out of New York City. And if you know anything about New York City, they recently elected Mayor Mandami, who is a Muslim and also a self-described socialist. So there was a push to try to bring in another person that is sensitive to that ideology into Congress. And that's why all this money came into the state to try to get that person, meaning Alam, elected. And that's why Bernie Sanders came here and campaigned for her, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez supported her as well as part of that socialist kind of movement. Wake and Durham voted for Alam, and Orange and Chatham and some of Durham voted for Fouché. Now, interesting that both of these women are women of color, right? And both hold elected office right now, because Alam is a Durham County Commissioner, and obviously Fouché was the incumbent as a Congresswoman. And it seems that Alam was able to mobilize young people, like Mandami did in New York City. A lot of people that were at the polls supporting her and handing out literature and the like were younger people. And the ones that showed up to vote were younger people. And while Fouché was able to get older voters and establishment Democrats, liberals, and also she got some younger people too, but the dynamic of Alam's approach very similar to the Mandami approach in New York City, and getting these younger voters mobilized to come out and vote for someone with a socialist kind of ideology. But the race is over. Fouché won that race, and she'll go on to another term in Congress. So that was a very interesting race to watch. Very close. A lot of money came into the state for that. And another race that was also on national headlines, actually, was North Carolina Senate District 26. District 26 is perhaps one of the most watched North Carolina races, locally and nationally, because it was between it was two Republicans in a primary between Senate President Pro Temp Phil Berger and Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page. And nearly a year of campaigning, right, between both of them, Page, at this point, has won the race by 2 votes. So there are still provisional ballots that need to be counted. It could still go in any which way, but it shows that the race right now, where it stands, has Page, Sheriff Page, in the lead and currently favoring him. And he has already declared victory, but a recount is more than likely will happen. And by the way, Berger was endorsed by Trump. So this is Trump. Normally, when he endorses someone in a primary, the person who receives the endorsement, typically wins the primary. They don't necessarily win every single election, the general election, but he has a good track record. But the primary, typically, a Trump endorsed candidate wins. So Phil Berger is considered in North Carolina one of the most powerful politicians in the state for over the last 10 years. And he spent, the numbers are still coming in, is estimated to be between $9 to $10 million. And not necessarily all his money, but a lot of money was coming in from PACs and other affiliated groups into North Carolina to influence that race. So, and the bulk of the spending to date, from what I've been able to research, has been from a group called North Carolina True Conservatives. And from what I understand, they are an independent expenditure group, primarily funded by the National Good Government Coalition, which is in turn funded by the Republican State Leadership Committee, of which Berger is a member. Now, that's a national organization, Republican State Leadership Committee, of which Berger, right, Phil Berger, is a member. And Lawrence Shaheen, a long-term Berger confidant, is leading North Carolina True Conservatives. So it's interesting to note that this position, the Senate pro tem leader, only pays about $50K, $55K, and maybe off a few thousand here. It's not a 6-figure job, and they're throwing $9 to $10 million at this position. So that's just an observation. And the challenge that Berger encountered is that he had some issues with supporting casinos and lottery video terminals in Rockingham County, and people were against it in his district. They didn't want it there, but he went ahead and pushed through to try to make this happen, and it didn't. It got pushed back, and he couldn't get it done. So this kind of left a sour taste in the mouth of the local voters in Rockingham County, and obviously Page saw that opportunity and went for it. So that was an issue that affected Berger, and also, from what I understand, he de-annexed some land for a donor that was, I believe it was in Guilford County. There was a donor that gave him some nice donations, and he de-annexed some property for that homeowner, that owner, to build houses on development. After the local council, the local commissioners there rejected it. So they went ahead, he wanted to have the state level and de-annexed it, which would mean basically cut off that property from control and oversight of the local politicians, so that landowner can do what he wants with the property. So whether that was a property rights issue, which it seems to have been, and one can make the argument on both sides, but it just, on the face of it, doesn't look good. So you have that issue in Guilford County. So, and then there was Shrimpgate. Shrimpgate was a bill that, that's what it was called. He supported a bill that would require the shrimp industry to catch shrimp further away from the shore, and it could have potentially destroyed the shrimp industry in North Carolina, according to those who supported the bill. And over 1,000 people from the shrimp industry came to Raleigh, along with business owners that had shrimp businesses, to protest the bill. It did not pass the House after it was approved in the Senate. Remember, Phil Berger is the leader of the Senate. So the bill got through the Senate, but it died in the House and never went anywhere. So you got these issues are things that evidently affected Phil Berger's ability to win this seat again, assuming that he lost the election and the provisional ballots don't give him any more votes. And Sheriff Page, going to him, ran for lieutenant governor in 2024. He but lost in the primary. And he has been the sheriff of Rockingham County for a while, and he actually lives there. And he has worked in the community and campaigned hard in Rockingham and Guilford County. And he touched some sore spots in people's emotions about Phil Berger. And there is some accusation that Phil Berger lives in Raleigh most of the time, and very rarely is in Rockingham County. He's actually in Raleigh and has a place here, from what I understand. Now, Phil Berger, Page had some issues with him being sheriff, purportedly taking trips and spending a lot of money at conferences and hotels and things of that nature. Some issues with the jail that he was responsible for. So, Page also had some issues as well, some baggage that could be questioned and he could be attacked on. But it seems that the bigger issues or more issues seems to be more in Phil Berger's court, and it seems that affected the outcome of this race. And it seems again that he may have alienated or angered some of his constituents, and this is why someone who's been in that position for over 10 years, that an incumbent like that is really hard to unseat. But it seems that Page was able to tap into a lot of things and get people to vote for him. So other races in North Carolina that are worth mentioning is that Carla Cunningham, a Democrat in Mecklenburg County, she is a House member, and she voted to support ICE, the law ICE 318, House Bill 318, that was vetoed by Governor Stein, but was overridden by the House. And the Republican majority needed one vote to override the veto to make this law where sheriffs have to work with ICE, that they have to enforce detainers, that they have to inform ICE that someone's being released into the community 2 hours before the release, if there was a detainer involved. And Carla Cunningham sided with the Republicans and allowed the Republicans to override the veto, and this became law. So she lost her seat in Mecklenburg County. As a result of that, she was primaried. A challenger came up and she lost that seat. And another Democrat that lost his seat was Nasif Majid, another Democrat in Mecklenburg, lost his seat because he voted with the conservative majority Republicans to define House Bill 805 that only defines male and female and put that into state law, and that it prohibits gender transitions paid for by taxpayers. Also, you couldn't get gender transition surgery in prison, or minors can't do it, things of that nature. So that bill was also a bill that needed Republican support, and with Nasif Majid, he crossed party lines and he supported that bill that a man is a man, a woman is a woman. You can't do transgender surgery on children and minors, things of that nature. So that in turn made him lose his seat because he was primaried and he lost his seat. Mind you, this happened. These two seats are in Charlotte, North Carolina. So there will be two new members to the House in Charlotte. They'll be Democrats, so it doesn't change the composition of the House, but it does change people who, in theory, would cross party lines to vote with the Republican majority for a bill that they support. So that's that. And an observation is that in the municipal elections of 2025 across North Carolina, these are the elections that happen in June of 2025, I believe June or July. Many incumbents lost their seats. These are local council races. Many of the winners were Democrats who ousted Republicans. And I'll use seats in Wake County, Fuquay and Holly Springs as examples that the Democrats ousted mayors and also Republican council members And the theory of why this happened in June of 2025 or in last year are many, right? Why this transpired. But one is that the Democratic Party did a better job of mobilizing their voters to come out. And also, there was anger. There's anger at many of Trump's policies on immigration and the stubbornness of food prices remaining high. It's just a pocketbook issue, and housing costs remaining high to buy a house, and also rental, right? Renting an apartment. It's also still expensive in this area and across the country, but in North Carolina, we're talking about North Carolina in particular. So these issues, by the way, started under the Biden administration, but carried over into the Trump administration. Since Trump said that we're gonna lower the prices on day one, lower inflation, costs, and things of that nature, and people remember that. So you couple that with immigration issues, you couple that with the pocketbook issues, and people were just angry, and the Democrats did a decent job, good job of mobilizing their voters to get out and vote. So the immigration tactics of rounding up millions of illegal aliens in the country and going into communities to look for them, and mistakenly picking up people who should not have been picked up or detained is overly highlighted and exacerbated by the media, by radio, TV, social media. You see these cases of people that get rounded up, in the net, if you will, collateral damage. And although the numbers are low in general, if you may have 100 people that say that are arrested, and of that 5-7 people may get caught up in the net, and they may get released eventually, but those 5 or 7 people, which represent a very small number, they get highlighted in the media. So there's this illusion that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is going after all these people, and the numbers are much, much higher, but most people don't realize the numbers are very, very small. But nonetheless, that's what the community sees, and that's what they're seeing on social media, reading, hearing. So you got that anger with people who are innocent and shouldn't be detained, and that is translated into policies from Washington, and those policies from Washington are implemented by Republicans. So therefore, there's a connection with everything that's going on, from inflation to housing prices to gas. The gas is low now, but immigration, that's connected to local candidates. And people say, okay, you represent a party that I don't agree with because of what's going on. Now, a lot of these races, by the way, the municipals in 2025 are nonpartisan races. So, that they are basically just let's say they are campaigning on taxes, safer communities, better streets, things like that. Jobs, the local economy. They're not campaigning on these national issues, but since that is prominent in media and it's all over the place, they connect, the people who are angry connect those policies with the candidates that happen to be whether Republicans. So therefore, they voted them out. So that is just an overview of some of the races in 2026 and what's going on in North Carolina. Be prepared, like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, be prepared for a bombardment of your mailbox as well, direct mailers, social media targeting. You're going to see a lot of ads on your social media feed. You're going to have to be Xing out of them to kind of not see them. You're going to see a lot of stuff on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's going to be all over the place. And just remember that try not to let it influence you, bother you. Politics is a game that, obviously is played by a lot of people to control, our country and the things of that nature. And, try not to overly concern yourself about it. Vote for candidates that espouse your values, that support your values. And if you focused on that and kind of look at the values that they espouse, I think it'll be better and easier for you to vote for those candidates versus looking at the party. Look at the candidates, look at the values that they are sharing in their platforms, and the policy that they're promoting, and eliminate all the emotional charge, rhetoric, baggage, commercials. Ignore all that. all the flyers coming in and direct mail that gives a lot of inaccurate information on both sides of the aisle because they want to win the election. So be mindful of that as you begin to look at candidates going into 2026. We'll do more shows and conversations around this, and we'll have some candidates on as well throughout the next 6-7 months as we run through the election. So that is the show. Eso es la campaña. That's the show para hoy. We finished the show today. Be listening for our next show on Thursday at 4 o'clock, where we'll come up with another topic. And thank you for listening.
Hispanos del Sur, la voz de los hispanos en Carolina del Norte, quiere asegurarle que esté al tanto de los programas que le beneficiarán a usted y a su familia. Servimos a familias y a empresas en 4 áreas. 1. Creación, financiamiento y crecimiento de pequeñas empresas. 2. Becas para enviar a sus hijos a escuelas privadas y religiosas. 3. Programas de salud y bienestar para mejorar su salud y obtener seguro médico. 4. Educación cívica, políticas públicas y cómo las leyes y regulaciones afectan su vida diaria. Nos aseguramos de que nuestras voces se escuchen en todos los niveles de gobierno. ¿Necesita hablar con nosotros o colaborar con nosotros? Contáctenos al 919-931-4597 o por correo electrónico connect@hispanosdelsur.com o envíe un mensaje en redes sociales. Hispanos del Sur, la voz de la comunidad hispana.
La Celestial 106.5 está cada vez más comprometida contigo. Escucha cada jueves Café con Hispanos con el pastor Gilbert Pagan. A las 4 de la tarde, disfruta de un contenido de actualidad y relación directa con nuestra comunidad, un programa de fe, valores familiares, negocios, gobierno y más. Recuerda que cada jueves tienes una cita con la Celestial a las 4 de la tarde. Café con Hispanos con el pastor Gilbert Pagan. Gracias por sintonizar Café con Hispanos, la voz de nuestra gente